beer.
Absolutely.
Today's beer is Mikkeller Rice Lager. It's quite tasty. It's a nice lager from Denmark, if you can find it. Please, someone sponsor us. This from beerhunter.co.uk. Still go for sponsors. But not as professionally as the gentleman who joins us this evening. More after the titles. Hello and welcome to Let's Drone Out, episode 471, on Thursday, the 5th of September, 2024. You are joined by the Master Controller, Frank himself.
Control feels a distant concept, but yes. Hello.
You have been given control because you are enabled by Let's Drone Out. We grant you the right to control.
I've turned up and therefore by default have control.
You are the most responsible person in the building and therefore the right is yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Myself, Stephen, hello, good evening. And our guest this evening is Cerberus, representing the racing community and FPV Racing Solutions. Hello, Cerberus.
And that one. Hello, everybody.
There we go. You can see the logo.
Oh, what's happened there? What was that necessary? Some people just feel uneasy if they're the wrong place on the screen. They just get a little bit.
That made my head feel funny.
Really? I've always been left-headed. Why am I right-headed now?
Because the logos were going over the top of each other. I desperately needed to resolve that.
Oh, this is why Cerberus has a company and is doing marketing and branding, and I am not.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
For the past years, I believe, just coming up to a year, right? Serb has been the chairman of the BDRA, the British Drone Racing Association.
Yes.
And it feels a very quick year from my perspective. I imagine it must be even quicker for you.
Or longer, depending on the amount of paperwork involved.
Depending on the amount of pain involved. Yeah, in some aspects, far too quick. Because I haven't really gotten done what I wanted to get done. But for a volunteer organisation, that's pretty standard. In terms of getting done what we did get done, quite a long year. And in terms of it being incredibly hard work, yeah, a very, very long year, and an emotional and a draining and a taxing year, if I'm honest. Yeah, so I had I was on the BDRA committee 2 years ago as a technical advisor, so not a committee role. And I kind of didn't really see the direction as being something that worked for me. So I went off and was like, well, I'm just going to go off and I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to do what I do that well, and just go off and be me. And that gave me the chance to do a 5-race series with Killer Quads, and all of my guys at Killer Quads who were all behind me and helped me. And I claim all the credit for it, but it's very much a community-based thing, right? There's people there supporting you. There's people that believe, and everybody gets stuck in. So at the end of that year, the BDRA committee had 2 people step down, and I didn't really think much of it. And the remaining members of the committee contacted me on the 11th hour of applications closing and said, "Serb, would you come on back onto the committee?" And I said, to be honest, the only way I would come back onto that committee would be if I was back on as the chairman and I had the support of the committee and a mandate for change. And the answer was, well, yeah, that's kind of what we had in mind.
Yeah, and they were like, Cerberus, you weren't at that meeting, but...
and I'm like, damn it, I've talked myself into that one then. So I took it on. I went through the election, was voted in and became chairman. And took it from there, really. And it's been an amazing year. We've achieved a heck of a lot. I mean, I came into the committee just to talk finances. When I came into the committee, they had £1,700 in the bank. And when you're looking down the barrel of going to Weston Park, and they want £3,000 just to give you a patch of grass, and you've got a membership of potentially, I think there was about 60 or something at that time, paying £10 a head. The math ain't mathing. So
one number is bigger than another number.
How did you meet those challenges then?
Well, I have I believe in relationships, right? I believe in one of the things I said about being chairman was that I wanted to talk to everybody. I wanted everybody's opinion. It started with the pilots, but as well as that, I was already working on relationships from Killer Quads and the 5 race series. So with my sponsors, HD0, Carl, love you to bits, man. GemFan, who looked after us. So I had those relationships. But also a very good relationship with the digital television group, Alex Buchanan, who is amazing and is behind the One for HDD project. And those guys are doing this technical project that needed input from live racing events. I mean, they're off next week to a big motorcycle race that I'm not allowed to name. So
let's check the calendars and look at motorcycle races coming up.
So I was able to bring my collaboration with DTG, Imaginary Pictures, what's the I've got all the ATS group as well. So those like major players, those collaboration partners with FPV Racing Solutions, to bring them to BDRA and introduce them and say, look, you guys are looking for video content, rich content, multi-stream, perfect. You've got feeds coming from lots of racing bikes, also feeds coming from lots of racing drones. So that's perfect. It needed a lot of work on our side from FPV Racing Solutions to give them telemetry and scores and scoreboards and feeds and all that sort of stuff. So I was able to bring that in and join those collaborative partners together. And we were very lucky that the One for HDD DTG group collaborated on Western Park and the UK Championships, which is coming up this weekend. And we were given a total a fund in order to be a part of that technical trial to connect to them into the tune of about £15,000.
Wow. So yeah, like you were saying,
you
in
can
terms
get a
of
patch of grass.
yeah.
Yeah.
So makes things a lot more reasonable.
Yeah, absolutely. And that meant that we could do quite a lot, right? So we can do Western without panicking. Western Park, the pilot ticket price probably should have been 3 figures. Because of the way things had moved and the price of everything, the price of marquees, the stuff we wanted to do. And we'd gotten to a point as a hobby where one person had the inflatable gates and they were fantastic, and BDRA were able to hire those from that person. Those gates had reached end of life, really. They were a bit past it. They're still usable, I'm sure, but for a big event, could you still trust them? So here we are, and that person's having a year off as well. So we need track equipment, and I've always said that if the BDRA are going to run the UK Championships, I don't think they should run Western Park. That's another thing. They needed track equipment, so we were able to spend somewhere in the region of £3,000 on a full set of championship-size GemFan gates. And again, I mentioned GemFan earlier. That's another relationship that we were able to use to get sponsorship from GemFan, so that we didn't pay full whack for that full set. And I always had a bug about using the multi-GP chapter-size gates. Nothing wrong with chapter-size gates. They're brilliant. But they specifically were designed by MultiGP for chapter events. So for us to do the UK Championships, that should be with the championship gate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So putting chapter gates out on a championship course never really sat right with me.
Just very quickly for people that don't live and breathe this stuff as much as you
One's
do.
white and the other's blue.
How do they compare?
Bigger. The championships games are bigger.
I thought, is the hole bigger though? Surely they're the same size hole to fly through.
The opening is larger, so yeah, they're instead of being...
shouldn't the championship pilots be better and therefore have smaller gates to fly through? Or am I confusing things?
Tell that to DRL.
Yeah.
I guess the idea is that they're all very good, so they're battling for position, right? It's not an obstacle course for them. They're overtaking each other, so you need the width enough for two of them to go through.
It should be about picking good lines and flying efficiently, and so the bigger gates make it less of an obstacle course and more of a racetrack.
Okay, that sounds better for spectators.
Yeah, it is actually. I'd like to see some more stuff for spectators actually, but see how we get on.
The way you're explaining this, it sounds like there's been some not kind of obvious changes, but internal changes in the way that BDRA is treating itself, like it's being more of an organization, more professional. Would you say that you've seen those changes in the last year?
Yeah, and it's not just the money. It's not just being able to bring sponsorship in. It's spending that money wisely, but also leading the committee into other changes that needed to be made. The rules. So we've had the biggest rules overhaul that BDRA has ever seen. And I
have a short version on that. I know they can be incredibly detailed.
Yeah, it is terrible. So I led a working group to go out to the community and say, right, time you guys had some input, and we got the input and then fed that back to the committee and then overhauled the rules. And we worked with Eric, who is part of the FAI as well, to get our rule set more aligned to FAI, which helps us out for international competition. So benefits our pilots when they go abroad, and also lines us up so that in the UK we can start to look at having a world championship race here in the UK. Like,
so are you hoping that your races can act as kind of qualifiers or line up pilots directly for FII events, and you don't need to do separate events because you're aligned to their rule set? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. It puts us in a stronger position because we are more aligned to that rule set. So that's really, but that's something in the background people don't see.
And then Eric is in the chat right now,
Eric.
listening along.
My lifesaver when it comes to rules. Love that guy so much. So yeah, but then it's rules, right? So they're always contentious, and we did the best we could do with the feedback we got, and also within kind of a remit of trying to keep the racing interesting, exciting, and scalable and sellable as well. Nobody really thinks about that part of it. And did we get them completely right? I think we did pretty bloody well. Are there small tweaks that maybe need changing? Possibly, but I wouldn't touch them because it needs 12 months to bed in and figure out where you're going and what you're doing. But you get small groups of noisy people that leverage social media very well.
Surely not.
To make your life hell. And my life has been absolute hell over the rules. People would not let it go, would not leave it alone. People have been surprisingly vitriolic and surprisingly rude, and that has to, I have to say, that is one thing that has beaten me down over this year. Really,
the unfortunate symptom of sticking your head up and trying to do something. You make yourself a target, and it's a shame that people can't kind of acknowledge that being in that position takes a lot of energy, a lot of focus, and is just exhausting. But it attracts the worst. Unfortunately,
where do you think that comes from? Like, do you think it's just people not understanding that you're not paid for this? Like, this is just something you're doing.
I think passionate people with no filter.
Yeah.
People seem to forget that.
Hello, engineering community.
People seem to forget they're talking to human beings, you know, and to treat people with respect and trust, you know, that person is doing things from a good place. It's been horrible, absolutely horrible. I've talked to you guys before about the Jim Gibney Memorial Race, right? Which is really, really, really important to me. That's very, very personal. And because of the stuff I was doing on the committee, I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to get it done, but it has to happen. That's my promise I made. It has to happen. Doesn't matter how busy I am. The gym race happens, and it happened, and it was great. It was really chilled. But we got to the end of qualifying, and a member of my own committee decided he didn't like one of the rules because it put him into a finals group that he thought he should be one above. And it all kicked off. I mean, shouting and swearing and just like, guys, this is, what are you doing? Of all the events to do this at, not that one, but stop.
It should just be a laugh. I mean,
yeah. And I made a mistake. When the query was raised, could we change the rule? I should have gone, no. We've got a set of rules. That's what we're going to do. And the mistake I made was to say, okay, but if we entertain this, everybody has to come over and discuss it, and everybody has to agree. So all of the pilots came over, and we had 10 minutes of back and forth and back and forth. And they reached a position where the guys who wanted their own way beat the lower finalists down to a point where they said, oh, just let them have their own way. So we said, okay, we'll go off, we'll do that. And everybody had agreed to it. And I wasn't really happy with what happened to the lower placed finalists, but they had made a concession, good on them. And then 2 minutes later, that group were back again saying they wanted more. They wanted different changes.
It should have just been like, these are the rules we're flying with today. You want to change anything, you can talk about it, and we'll think about changing it for next time. Like, and it can happen offline.
Yeah, like, guys, like, we've come to an arrangement. If we want to have more discussion, we have to have everybody back over again. So we had everybody back over again. And I'm like, this is
and all this time you're not racing. No one's really having fun. It's just like a massive shouting match.
It's the gym. Yep. What are you doing? And so everybody had to come back over, and it started all off again. And I realized what I'd done was wrong. And I said, look, I apologize. What I've done here is wrong. What's going to happen now is we're going to stick to the rules. We will fly the finals to the rules. This is the rule, section 16, subsection 4. This is the rule, covers this situation. That's what we're doing. Cataclysmic explosion, anger, swearing. I honestly thought the guy was going to thump me. And I actually said, right, I'm just going to go off and rejig the finals then and sort things out. And what I actually did was I went back to my camper van. Sam, my wife, gave me a hug, and I burst into tears. And I sat in the camper van for 5 minutes crying my eyes out. And at that point, I'm like, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
I think that's reasonable. I think that's
that's rough.
Honestly, that it's 100 guys across the whole of the UK, a population of 60 million, and 100 people playing with their drones in a field.
Yeah, who should appreciate that they're lucky to be able to do this and find like-minded people and have a good time with them.
Yeah,
and just get on with it.
I still think sort of the vast majority get on well, fine.
Yeah,
right. Like,
but I mean that's the concept of the internet, isn't it? The vast majority of people are nice, Frank, but the vast majority of people are pretty quiet. And then one or two.
I think even in this case, I still feel like even when this happens, and this has happened, you know, at other events, there have been this sort of tension, and my impression of it is from other events where I've seen a similar sort of situation is that it comes from sort of being, like you say, the passion being like so invested in the energy of the event, in the sort of competitiveness of, like, you know, you are competing for this, and for those, you know, those few hours, like, that is all that matters in the world, and not, you know, you like sort of deciding to blank out the everything else, including possibly to a fault, sort of the appreciation that you're actually with other human beings that actually you're kind of there to have fun with and get on with.
Yeah.
I think that is almost a side effect of filling a field with some of the most competitive people in their most competitive, hyped up, adrenaline fueled state.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it doesn't stop there. That's not where it stops. And I don't know if it's a factor of us now living in a world where we meet online, and people feeling emboldened by that, or if people just are generally, they have their own egos and their own agendas. But, you know, for that to be a member of my own committee doing that in front of everybody at that event, that's bad. And that sends off that message that, as a chairman, I don't have the support of the committee. And the reason it sends off that message is because I don't. Because the whole 12 months has been incredibly difficult to work with people that aren't prepared to embrace change, and also that don't seem to have that trust. So I came in saying, if I have a mandate for change, if you're looking at the 5-race series, and saying this is what you've done, come and do some of that, then surely you're bringing me in for that sort of knowledge, and as well as the contacts that I have, the approach that I have, the relationship with the community. You know, I was the first person in the UK to race the championship size gates, and there are questions that you have to answer on what size pipe do you use, what size rebar do you use? You know, those gates come in 2 colors. They come in orange and they come in blue and white. And I've researched for a month or 2, talking to the community and testing gates. And we absolutely knew blue and white were the gates to use. And I said to the committee, blue and white are the gates to use. So they brought the orange ones. And that's like one example of all of these like
life is too short to put up
little
with
things.
people, really is.
I'm banging my head against a brick wall here, but you know, all the stuff we did, the changes to the rules, the revamp of the website that we've done, Tiny Whoops. So Tiny Whoops is a fantastic, thriving community, right? And there is some crossover between 5-inch pilots and Tiny Whoop pilots, but there's also Tiny Whoop pilots that are just Tiny Whoop pilots. And on Wednesday this week, they were in a pub just up the road, and Mini Rolls Rule was there running his Whoop event. That I said, I'm not running in the summer because Whoop pilots only fly. No, it's not true. They're flying. So we've bolstered the BDRA by bringing Whoops under our umbrella. And I led the charge on that to talk to Matt and to bring him in, Mini Rolls Rule, and work with Eric again to get their rule set underneath our rule set without changing anything, without going in and saying, we're going to rewrite how you do Whoops. No. You tell us how we do Whoops. We'll support you.
Because it's community. That's the whole point, right? It's not like, let's make one tribe into 100 smaller tribes until we get down to just one person in each group.
You come and tell us how you race. You come and tell us what your rules are, and we'll put our umbrella over the top of you. And that means at the end of your season, we will then crown a UK Whoop champion, because the BDRA is the governing body, right? The BDRA shouldn't be about running 2 events. It's not a club. It should be about being a governing body. And
managing things like sponsorship, right? So managing like the media interests, managing the coverage, ensuring that when the money's put in, you can go and say, oh, we've got this many pilots, and it covers everyone who's flying drones, not everyone who's flying one specific race class.
Yeah. And unfortunately, moderating the rule set.
And tuning it up with the international rule set so you can participate in international competitions. So the people doing like Tiny Whoops benefit from media coverage they wouldn't have gotten otherwise, right? So the people flying 5 inches are suddenly in a community of hundreds and hundreds of pilots instead of 60 or 70 or whatever it is.
Yeah. And you know what? The other kind of sneaky clever thing about that, Serbs, is you bolster your membership. You grow your community. And if you grow your community, you grow your membership, and more members is more better. But then, and also we did things like I set up the Discord server. So
That's been very successful, isn't it?
Yeah, I love Discord servers. They work so well for committee chat. You know, like there's the section that you can't see where the committee are chatting, and there's separate channels.
Yeah.
So instead of like one big Facebook chat where everything gets lost, we can now collaborate much more cleanly and much more easily. And again, that was an uphill challenge. Nobody wanted that because it was change, right? And change is bad. But the guys are on there. The Whoop guys are on there. The 5-inch guys are on there. They can talk about upcoming events.
Awesome. Yeah, and you can create events there, and like let's all get together at 8 p.m. one night and fly the simulator or whatever, and you can stream your simulator feeds on there so people can watch.
Yeah,
useful.
Yeah, like you've done a YouTube. You can promote your YouTube links up there. You can it's collaboration and community. I'm all about collaboration and community, but I'm not about this hard slog to just get the smallest changes through, and I'm not about really struggling with people that aren't going to come with you and aren't going to come along. When I do Killer Quads and I do FPV Racing Solutions and I do everything else and every other committee I've ever been on, I've never experienced one that's been quite so entrenched in disagreeing with someone just because it was them that said it.
Well, you've just got to look at sports. Even the most traditional of sports like cricket, they have to constantly reinvent themselves to stay relevant. You look at the changes like Indian cricket's made, making it matches shorter and uniforms more colourful and so on and so forth. Like that's the most old and stuffy of sports. And it's constantly reinventing itself to make sure that new people are coming in, to make sure people are watching it, to attract sponsorship, right? So why not drones? It's only like a 10 or 15-year-old sport.
Yeah, but do you, in that sport, do you get a small number of people that are very noisy on social media going, "Oh, this one small rule in a..."
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's old men like banging their pipes on the desk and
I'm never flying again until this one rule. What, guys? Fly with your friends and have fun. That's supposed to be the point. Like if you're only going to races to score points, you're going to races for the wrong reasons. Go out and fly with your friends to have fun and build memories. And remember that time where like I was right behind you on the last lap and I smashed into the gate. Oh, that was brilliant. That's the stuff we want. It shouldn't
There's
be this
always
hard.
going to be some like 14-year-old kid somewhere in Asia who flies 10 hours a day, who is going to be half the time you are on every single lap, who can thrash you. You're not going to be the best in the world, right? You just got to have a laugh.
Yeah. But even like our best pilot, Sol, I've not seen him since he left a race early, and I suspect he left early because he wasn't having a good time. And you can debate amongst yourselves what was causing that. And he's not at the UK Championships this year. You know, he said there's no fun for it anymore. Yeah. It's not fun anymore. And he's the quickest guy in the UK, and he's gone.
Yeah.
And that's we've lost something there. And I've lost something this year.
The whole FPV community. I mean, I love the technology. I love the fun. I love the hey, I'm a bird. But the amount of toxicity and tribalism is exhausting. Like, I've removed myself from a lot of communities I was in simply because I was trying to help. And a lot of the time, you go in, someone's got a problem, you try and help them, and they just go, "Oh, I don't think that's what's going on. I think you're a prick, and you shouldn't be here, and you shouldn't do this and do that." And I'm like, "Okay, I was just trying to help." And what's the point?
Jack is gathering some pitchforks and torches. And
I think across the community, though, I don't want to make it sound so terrible because I'm speaking from my seat. And across the community is strong, and people will give you a lipo in the pits if you've blown one up, even if you're a competitor. That kind of spirit does exist. But the seat that I've found myself in for the last 12 months is incredibly difficult. And to face all those challenges and the people. Someone said to me the other day,
let's look at more of a positive angle, because you talked about bringing media coverage, you talked about grabbing the streams, getting people to transmit it. What's that done to the sport? I imagine you might be festooning quads with a few more LEDs to tell who's who during races? How's that changed things?
I'd love that, but I don't think they'll do it. I mean,
isn't there a rule the US guys have that you've got to festoon your quad with at least 50 LEDs or something?
Yeah, the guys that are going off to China for the World, they're having to put LEDs on. And
would that filter down FIA and all that?
I would hope so. And I think my relationship with Imaginary Pictures and the digital television group will continue beyond anything else I do. I don't know what I'll be doing in the next 12 months. But yeah, those changes I think will start to come through. I mean, being able to sit and commentate with Matt Andrews and get his ideas from the kind of production side. FPV Racing Solutions is the production, right? And Matt is the talent, and he is very talented. There's Mini Rolls Rule. My whoops are top dude. And Matt can bring us ideas for production, and FPV Racing Solutions can act on those, and we have, which is what makes that such a good relationship. So yeah, there are good things, but at the moment, as I look into this weekend and the AGM and the election coming up, I'm in a position where a member of the committee has basically said I can do it better and stood for election.
Let them try.
I was going to say, from the sounds of it, that sounds very good. It sounds like you're in a position to step out the way and let them find out how that goes.
Yeah, and maybe you'll be laughing over a beer in 2 years' time when they've had their stint.
Well, after a year of amazing success against the odds, and having to work with a committee, which I will freely admit I'm not great with not getting my own way. I'm very much a doer, and I shoot for the moon, because if I miss, I'll hit the stars. And in killer quads and the stuff I did, not the last 12 months before, was incredibly successful, and I had great people around me that supported me and worked with me and came with me. But when you're not with people that have joined you because they believe in you, that's actually really hard. And to have such a vote of no confidence, having brought in all of that sponsorship, all of these changes, set up, the BDRA now have to pay for the champs, right? So they have to pay the marquee hire and the pitch hire. But they're currently sitting with over 10 grand in the bank. And they're going to pay out a few grand to cover the champs. They then go into the next year with all of that cash on hand to do something amazing, to support grassroots clubs, to do all the stuff that they should be doing as a governing body that they have failed to do this year, despite me trying to keep focus on that and failing. And after all of that hard work, after all of those tears, after all of those hours that I've taken away from my family to give to the BDRA for the community, not because I can say I'm the chairman, for the community, that's where I come from. And people that know me know that I start with the community and end with the community. Inflict chairmanship, no. So it's soul destroying. And I did a couple of months ago turn around and go, I'm not standing again. I was broken. I was absolutely broken. And to not get that support from other human beings to say, what can we do, Serbs? What's gone wrong? How can we fix that? It is soul destroying. And I actually I turned around like a couple of weeks after talking to some sage advisors that I have in my life. I'm lucky I've got some very special people in my life. And said, no, actually, I've started this. I'm going to keep going. We've brought that money in. We're going to do the good thing. And stubborn Serby came back, and I went, right, fuck it, let's go. And then I spoke to the committee on an individual basis, and was told, honestly, to my face, do not stand for chairman. What have I done that's so bad? What have I done that's so wrong? Someone tell me.
They're probably just a bunch of armchair warriors who,
On the
I,
other hand,
See how
I
it
mean,
goes.
if it was me, if I was on the committee and you asked me should I stand for chairman, from what you've told us in the past half hour, I'd say, you know what, sir, maybe don't. maybe like you put all that into it, and
There is such a thing as burnout.
Yeah, exactly. You clearly put a lot into this, and
the problem I now face, of course, is how do you go if you do win that election? How do you go back into a committee that don't support you?
Start removing people from the committee.
Not
purging. Yeah.
Well, you say not an option, but Machiavelli would have said otherwise. But there's a will, there's a way.
I really hope that whatever happens and whoever it is, the BDRA keep going and they do something sensible with that money, and they stop all of this backwards and forwards on the rules and the rules and the rules, and they focus on international racing and on promoting the grassroots hobby, building the membership back up, supporting. So the next target is X-Class and wings, right? These guys, they're out there. The Whoops, we've got a good model for that. How can we help you? How can we as a governing body go out and help those other parts of the sport? That's what should be going on. Not spending 6 months talking about where the marquee's going at Weston Park. I'm sorry, but that's crazy. And to then, face a challenge from inside your own committee, it's a good thing. It's that people have that passion, but for me, it's a bad thing because, it says go away Serbs. So my hat is still in the ring. Should my hat still be in the ring? Debate amongst yourselves. But one thing I do know is that, I want them to be successful, and wherever I am in the next 12 months, I will be successful. I'll go off. Absolutely. If I have to, and I'll do what I do, and I'll do it well, and I'll keep those relationships. Possibly not such a great relationship with the BDRA. I don't know what that would look like. I'm only human. I have emotions. Somebody said to me the other day, "Oh, the problem is, Serbs, you take it personally, and it's just business." I'm like, get bent. It's not business. It's playing with toys. It's very hard not to take it personally when you're getting, attacked from so many angles. And I make it sound terrible because that's kind of where I am right now. But there are plenty of people that have said plenty of nice things as well. But they get drowned out by those noisy voices.
I think that's part of it, isn't it? It's like it sounds like it's a very high octane, been a very high octane year of putting a lot in, getting a lot done, making a lot happen, and it sounds like at least the rate it's been going is not a particularly sustainable way that you can keep up. So I feel like there's almost that side of it. Like you can't keep doing that every year. Like you can't have another year like this year.
No.
And so
and you can't keep repeating what the BDRA does year on year and expect success. You can't, because COVID killed the membership numbers, and in other parts of the world, membership numbers are coming back, but in the BDRA, they're going down. And that's because that grassroots support isn't there. That support system isn't there. But also, in some ways, it's because of the adoption curve of technology, right? So there's a famous bell curve of technology adoption, and I think we went over the top of that bell curve just as we went into COVID, and so the timing was terrible. And it's a bit like I compare it to virtual reality. So there was an initial surge of virtual reality back in the 80s with these massive VR machines and massive headsets, and it surged, and then it disappeared. It went away, but it didn't go away. It was still there, and the dedicated people were still doing it. And then it kind of came back as it matured and was shaped into something that was accessible. And I think drone racing is probably doing the same thing. I think this tail off at the moment is probably a fairly natural adoption curve phenomena, and the loss of membership isn't necessarily something that's being done wrong. It's a natural way that new technologies behave. And actually, if you stay there, if you stick at the coalface and you use this as an opportunity to build those communities, then when it starts to come back, that inevitable resurgence, you'll be in a very strong place. But you've got to be aware of all that stuff. You've got to understand how that works.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think we are in this a middle section where sort of a few years ago, analog was good enough for everything, and you could use the same thing everywhere. And digital wasn't good for anything. And then all of a sudden, digital got good enough for some things. And now we've got different systems that are of digital that are good enough for lots of different things, each separately. But there's no one universal digital system that is good for everyone in all situations in the way that analog was good enough for everyone in all situations.
Yeah.
And so that's separated a lot of communities and sort of walled off. Whereas there would be people that would go and have do a bit of freestyle, and a bit of racing, and a bit of wings, and a bit of whoops, and a bit of this and a bit of that.
Yeah.
There's a bit more walling off.
Anyone who's been in this hobby for a while would have like a pair of analog goggles. The HD Zero modules were going for a song a while back, and the walk style module. Like, it's not actually that expensive to get into digital anymore.
I'm
saying if they want to do it, they'd have multiple systems.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean is that, you know, whereas you could have bought a 60 quid pair of goggles when I started, I could buy a 60 quid pair of shit FPV goggles, like box goggles,
polystyrene box goggles. Yeah,
exactly. And I could go to every event and tune into anything and be part of any of the communities. And a lot of the communities went between all the different events, and that was fine. Whereas now, to be competitive, like anywhere near competitive,
back in that time, I mean, you were buying the budget stuff, but there was also people buying the like LaForge crazy expensive analog systems. Just before digital appeared, analog had coalesced down to being a singular thing. But back in the day, there were lots of different analog systems. Fat Shark.
But still, it was the best. Like whatever was the best for racing was also the best for freestyle in terms of FPV goggles. Like you weren't buying a separate system. You weren't having to invest £300, £500 in a different system.
The cameras weren't. Like if you got the Rattel that was a beautiful picture quality, the picture quality enhancement came at the cost of latency. And so you'd have like the Predators and really low latency cameras that looked crappy. And then you'd have the cameras that looked like, oh my God, am I in a movie? Which had a bunch of image enhancement.
Mini Rolls Roll has perhaps a better explanation. That it's not that the best option was that it was just that everyone had the same option. If you had if you had the best racing setup, you could still go to a freestyle event and you would be still with the best equipment.
Amen. What's up, FPV? This is the Gartner hype cycle, the trough of disillusionment, the plateau of whatever it is. Yeah. This is the Gartner hype cycle, exactly.
The good thing though is you can actually still turn up to a race with polystyrene box goggles and analog and win a race.
Yes,
that
absolutely
is still there. And it's been great to do a little bit with Curry on this walk sale stuff and start looking at that. And actually, are they going to get on board and make it usable for us and dispel some of this tribalism where, I'm DJI and I'm this. It's like, no, you're a drone pilot. And it's good to see those other technologies coming in. And can we use them? HD Zero is, Carl absolutely nailed that as a racing system. It's spot on. The latency, the glass to glass on it. The way that it integrates with our existing lap timing and the event VRXs that he did were an absolutely genius move in terms of marketing. Yeah, because it meant race directors can go and buy an event.
Cornered the market in racing, absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant.
And that's sort of what I mean. It's like if someone goes to the nth degree in racing, and then, you know, like you say, burns out, decides actually this isn't fun for me anymore. I need a season out of this and doing something else. They are not going to be able to take that HD system and go meet up with their local freestylers and be engaged with that community as much as it used to be when no one had that option.
Yeah, you find yourself buying a wing with walk snail on it, and like you're in a different part of the forest all of a sudden. You've
got to relearn a lot more.
Different people, and it's how does the BDRA bring those people in and help them and assist them, right? Instead of being, there's that XKCD thing of, there are 15 competing standards.
and one universal standard to unite them all.
Yes, there are now 16 competing standards. and it's getting away from that. People having to go off and reinvent the wheel rather than getting together and inventing a superb wheel together rather than inventing 5 mediocre wheels apart. And that sounds cruel. I shouldn't say that people are inventing mediocre wheels.
Well, we're getting there. I think we had the Open HD guys and we had the Open IPC guys on this show probably coming up to a year ago now, and both of those projects are starting to get the first hardware out. We've got a RunCam board where RunCam have taken one of their cameras and they've got a third-party wireless module that they've put on, and they're selling it as a package. OpenHD have a bunch of options available as well. So they're slowly starting to get mainstream. And when that type of design gets perfected, it's going to be cloned, and there's going to be an exponential increase in popularity.
I can
we're
imagine
waiting for that first universal design that is a single board that fits in everything. And then all of a sudden, boom, clone-tastic.
And we are in that trough in between the two.
We're in the days where with analog
there was
systems,
a universal analog system, and the future days when there will be a universal digital
Frank
system.
probably remembers the days when like analog transmitters were the size of a pack of playing cards. I mean,
I've still got some.
That's kind of where we are with the kind of universal digital system.
I had a video receiver that you tuned with a knob to the right frequency.
What could go wrong?
Exactly.
That's where the excitement is. And for me, the technology is part of it.
That's what people want from their RF equipment.
That's why FPV Racing Solutions is a thing, because I like that sort of stuff, and then that's translating now into not so much part of my hobby, but part of not a business, but a thing that I can do that not many other people can do, and I really like that. I enjoy that.
A bit of mastery.
And that's that has opened up other stuff as well. So this year I flew over to Italy for the World Cup, and part of the Whoop stuff that I do with mini rolls, the Birmingham International Race Day, the FPV Racing Solutions, the I don't think it was because I was chairman particularly, but I got an invite. I was invited to go there, and that's amazing. I'm humbled by someone reaching out and inviting me to their event like that, and they looked after me so well. I was able to spend thousands of pounds on 3 flights because SleazyJet cancelled my flight home. But it was great, again, get out there to the other communities and see what equipment are you using, what rules do you run, why do you do this way.
And this was actually thinking about it with Eric in the chat as well. He can correct me, but my understanding of the sort of the original formation of the BFPDRA, the predecessor to the BDRA, was that there were lots of event organizers around the country, all running slightly different rule sets. And so when racers went, from their regular event where they'd learned all the rules and the processes of going to that event, went to a different organizer's event, all of a sudden their standard processes weren't that, it was all different. And they had to relearn how to go to an event. And Eric and the other organizers at the time went, well, this is ridiculous. Let's, rather than us trying to train all the racers how to go to our event separately and having to retrain them every time the racers go to a different event, how about let's all have the same rule set that everyone knows and follows, the organizers know, and have something to fall back on. The racers have something to fall back on. New people coming along can look at it in advance and go, oh, that is what's going to happen.
It sounds like
everyone can kind of build up.
Kumbaya.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea was to ease everyone into all using the same thing, which hopefully it can, the rule set can go 12 months without being
you leave
tweaked,
something
and
5 years and all
learn
of a sudden people act like they've been doing it since time immemorial and then get on their high horse about any future changes.
It really needs to go more than 12 months without tweaking the rules. You know,
enough for everyone to learn what the rules are and how the event works, and for the event organizers to be confident in knowing, this is how the event works.
Yeah,
so
and also
and just to be able to stand up and say no. Sometimes you've got to say no, and if someone says, "Oh well, I don't think this is fair," you can just say no. Those are the rules.
Yeah.
No, not. Oh, we've got to keep everyone happy, but I mean, you did a nice thing from a moral point of view, Cerberus, of like trying to keep everyone happy, but sometimes no is the right answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Deferring to the rules is a skill, I think.
And I think that is something that I take away from this 12 months is that you do have to sometimes be cruel to be kind. And I want to please everybody and I want to hear everybody's voice. But then you get to be a bit like that, the guy in the sci-fi film where he can hear everybody's thoughts and it drives you mad. And it's incredibly difficult to do. And there's a good section of the community that understand and say, look, I can see what the BDRA are trying to do. They're trying to hear everybody's voice. They're trying to be representative. And it's a small sport. So it's not like you can have 50 guys competing in this category and 50 guys in that category. You've got 100 people across the whole of the country. So you've got to try and come up with a set of rules that suits everybody, that keeps bums in seats and people coming back.
Keeps the sponsors, because they're crucial to actually keep the equipment, like the gates and props and everything else, paid for.
Well, and you have to, with some of those relationships, you have to, like with the digital TV group, you have to build technical systems in the background that they can integrate into, and that they will turn up and say,
did you hook them into Rotor Hazard, by the way?
Kind of.
Let's not go down that route.
I'm just intrigued.
Don't go down that route. But suffice to say, whilst I've been doing the BDRA stuff, FPV Racing Solutions have also been, as a separate entity, working incredibly hard in the background on technical connections with DTG and all those guys. And I need to shout out all of the partners in it. So you've got Digital Technology Group, the ATS Group, Wave Mobile, that we've been working with, the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology with us, Fraunhofer, University of Surrey.
Fraunhofer?
They're a MP4 audio.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they invented MP2, MP3. That's just odd to hear.
Yeah, okay. So they're part of the digital trial, so we've been working with them as well, funnily enough, on the audio side. And VMO2 are partners with the Digital Television Group as well. So it's big stuff going on in the background that FPVRS were then having to do as well, which was,
And the more names, the better, right? Because that's a revenue chain that enables you to get pitches, to build equipment for events, to hire venues.
Well, that's why I needed to remember to mention them all.
Well, I'm just hoping that we're going to be sponsored by some of these beers. Delicious.
And I need to shout out the Dutch guys as well. Hi, Max. Do you want to get on camera at last? He's been sat here in front of me, just off screen. The Dutch guys
been waiting for
that I met over in Italy. I met some great guys over there, and I've got some lifelong friendships now. And Bona from the Dutch racing group, who is famous worldwide for his tracks on Velocidrone. And he designed multi-GP tracks that have been amazingly famous. He designed the Italian World Cup track, and he's actually just designed the 2024 UK Championships track.
Groovy.
So
those are all on Velocidrone now, then?
No, all of them except the UK Champs, because in the UK, the feeling is that being able to fly the track in Velocidrone is an unfair advantage
for people that don't have simulators. Surely anyone who's in the championship would have a simulator.
I've currently got the UK Championships track on my phone. I could fly it right now on my phone.
Yeah, I mean, I have Velocidrone. I hate Velocidrone, but yeah, I've got a copy.
I've just been poked to say.
Yeah, I don't think you're the arbiter of what kit people don't have. So.
Yeah, I'm just surprised there are people. I'm surprised the argument's made. I'd have thought it would be.
I've just been poked to say that the Fraunhofer stuff is MPEG H, which is
MPEG H, which what new proprietary hellhole have we been invited into? Let's have a look.
So we've got, instead of having, there are fantastic track designers in the UK. Circles in Brackets, Mr. E, guys in Killer Quads, Mike Was Taken. We've got loads of really phenomenal track designers, but to be able to bring in the Dutch track designer who's done the Italian World Cup track and have him do our champs track, so we get a bit of Dutchy flow, and it's something a bit different, and nobody in the UK is then saying, oh well, so and so from over there designed the track, so obviously he's going to be quicker on it. But they won't release it on Velocidrone, which confuses me. I for a high-tech sport, I think that's weird. And because of the unique way I learn things, because I do appear on a spectrum, being able to fly a track in a sim beforehand saves me half a day of trying to figure out which direction I'm going in.
Well, I think also, like, from a spectator's point of view, I would rather watch people flying a track that they've practiced than them learning the track. But that's my...
Guys, the important thing, MPEG H, right? So this is positional 3D audio.
Oh no!
This is. Let's go back to the rabbit hole. All right, back to the rabbit hole. How does this relate to the drone stuff? Are you getting MPEG H encoded audio for the drone flying, so you can hear them go? You can watch at home on surround sound and be massively confused as screaming noises orbited your head.
I'm going to have to find.
So I would do that.
Let me find the blurb, because I do have blurb.
I've just read all the blurb. It's an ISO standard for 3D positional audio, supporting a number of sound channels. So instead of traditional channels, which were fixed related to the speakers, these new positional audio standards have a number of like 3D objects, and each object is like its own track that has positional data attached to it and is mixed in.
That's more
actually render it.
That's more technical than my marketing blurb.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe we'll take this off air after.
It would be awesome with quads, because you'd be able to literally hear them scream around your head.
Right, let me give you the blurb, or they'll beat me up. So the Fraunhofer IAS technology makes next generation audio a reality. Broadcasters and streaming providers around the globe count on it for their services, and it's the basis of Sony's immersive 360 reality audio music format. MPEG H audio opens the door to custom entertainment and advanced accessibility options. Simply choose from presets or create your own settings to enjoy a 3D audio experience that perfectly matches your preference on mobile devices, soundbar, smart speakers.
Mobile devices? How are you getting 360 audio off a mobile phone?
Earbuds? Like earbuds, whatever they're called?
Maybe wave it around your head on a piece of string?
Yeah, that's what you do. On a drone that flies around your head. You see that this is the fun stuff as well. So through those collaborative partners, I'm able to bring them and my love of drones together and put the BDRA into a position where it has some funding in the bank and has a full set of track equipment, whilst also getting the excitement of working with these guys.
Because let's face it, most sports like football are never going to be more than stereo, left, right, left, right, left, right. You want to feel like something's about to go right into your ear hole. A drone could do that.
As we come up to the top of the hour and the end of the show, I just want to make sure that we get from Serv. If you do carry on as chairman, and you've got that money in the bank behind you, and you've got a committee
Manifesto.
that's been voted in, that's supporting you and backing you with everything.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Because last
tank
time,
raid.
like for the plan for this year, you wanted to get sort of the engaging the public through the Instagram and building up the stories and personalities. There was increasing use of social media and Discord to bring more people together, and the Discord is definitely sort of spread out and grown, and that's very alive. The plan was to engage the organisers with alignment and resources, and you've got all that kit, all the track kit. You've got the money in the bank ready to do things for next year.
Yep.
I feel like you've done a lot of what you set out to do.
I have, but there's more. There's more to do, and the jury is out on what I will do and what my decisions will be in the next 2 days. And I'm not going to put. I would feel absolutely gutted to not give the community what I want to give the community. I said 12 months ago, everything starts from one question: what's in it for the pilots? So to not have the ability to serve the community and keep those relationships and my reputation to be good, rather than being sullied by being dragged into the dirt by these sort of things, I may have to say, actually, my family and my health come first.
That is very reasonable.
Because much as I love people, and I want to see things succeed, I also can't be sitting in my camper van crying for 15 minutes.
No, first
Sorry.
You must put on your own oxygen mask. Absolutely.
Yes. So, but if I were to stay on, delegation would be very important. The BDRA is far too mired in being a club. It shouldn't be a club that runs events. There are clubs out there that run events. And also in the day-to-day minutiae, it needs to be out to subcommittees and groups of passionate people. There are people out there passionate, doing stuff, technology stuff, rotor hazard stuff, rules stuff, but the rules should be left alone. But the next time the rules come up, it should again be a working group. It should be a subcommittee. The pressure needs to come off the committee members and go on to the resources that are out there. The membership needs to grow. It needs to keep growing. It needs to be bringing in the Whoop guys. It needs to be talking to the freestyle guys. There was a massive freestyle festival, and we could have gone along and said, oh, can we have a corner for some racing and do a bit of cross-pollination? Those sort of things need to be done. And you need to encourage the small clubs and go to the small clubs and go, what can we do? How can we help? What can we do to promote you on our website? What can we do to promote you? And also by osmosis, what can you do to promote us? The brand. So the BDRA logo up here, I don't know where to put. No, there we go. So
that one.
Yeah, that's a rework of the logo. So we looked at it and said that needs to be in a higher DPI. We need to have a better flag image. We need to tidy up the font. So I actually went away and created a better version of that. Eric gave me some help with it as well. That font is actually the BDRA's own font, because I went away and drew a font to give the BDRA its own font. So there's a TTF of the BDRA font that now exists.
Does the BDRA as an organisation own copyright and all these things? So you got to that level?
No, because they're only tiny. But what needs to happen is a brand guide. So you need to create it and say, like Coca-Cola will only let you use their logo certain ways in certain formats. So the brand awareness and the branding of a British qualifying event needs to be more clearly defined as a franchise.
Jack, do you hear that? There's no way that they can stop you misusing the BDRA logo. Are you hearing this, Jack? Jack, BDRA logo.
The cogs are already
stickers,
turning there.
Stickers, maybe Sharpies.
Especially if I'm not there next year. So yeah, promoting the brand and making it aspirational, making BQEs aspirational, so that support the smaller races, so that there is a definition between grassroots and a qualifying event. Education, STEM, schools, youth, all that sort of stuff needs to be done. Encouraging the people that are in the background, the streamers, the race directors, talking about race equipment and track equipment and how other clubs can help each other and get people set up. It's so difficult to set up a club, to create the kit, to know what to do, to understand how you're going. And all of that stuff is what a governing body should be doing, not planning where the marquee goes at Western.
Yeah, well, I hope you can make it fun for the pilots, to attract pilots and retain pilots, and not see your best talent walk out the door because it's all a bit much. So I hope you've got kind of the wisdom and introspection to look and make those choices.
We will see what happens, and if it's not me, then I hope somebody else carries it forward, and I hope somebody cottons on that stuff has to change. And okay, so maybe stuff changing hurts, and maybe part of it is, well, do you know what, Serbs? You put them through so much change that they're so hurt that now they have to go off and use somebody else. That's
they can't
fine.
tell their arse from their elbow anymore. They don't know what they're supposed to be flying or when they're flying. They don't even know which calendar. Some of them were still on the old Gregorian. It's just all too much for them.
You know what? If I'm
perhaps a bit more charitable, they've taken all out of you that they bear to take, and it's time for someone else to take the poison chalice.
It's good luck for the BDRA, basically. I think in this day of media, you've got to have a media presence. It's sink or swim, and if you're not existing as a streaming sport, you don't really exist as a sport. So I hope that a sport so fundamentally video oriented as one where the participants are literally flying via video feed can succeed in this era.
Yeah. If I'm that person, if that's who I am, then so be it. If I'm the person that had to go, right, 12 months of growing pain, 12 months of change, that's put you in a position of strength, but now you need someone that isn't me because you associate me with the pain of change, then I will take that on the chin and fine, fair enough, because I'm happy that what I've done in the last 12 months is
you've gotten a few good punches.
Is from my heart and for the community. And and if they're in a better position and if I walk away from it now, then I will just look over my shoulder and say, do not fuck this up.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've done some wonderful things. It's a very callous thing to say you've gotten a few good punches, but I think they've punched you more than anything. And it sounds like you've done some amazing things.
If nothing else, you've left it better than you found it. So that's always the goal. Right?
I believe that. I do believe that. Some people probably don't, but I do believe that. And I'm not going anywhere. I'll always have drones on the wall, and I'll always be around.
It's just more time for the race trailer, right?
Yeah, exactly. More time.
Oh, how is the race trailer?
It's become a workshop.
Does it have a jacuzzi yet?
It has a leisure battery that I left the lights on and killed the leisure battery. So. But yeah, it's
very leisurely.
Parked behind the camper van, and it's become a staging point for camper van building. So it's now instead of a race trailer project, it's more of a complete mobile
race camper van
living and.
Are you going to be like one of those trucks that's got a screen on the side, so you just like drive into an area and this giant LED wall illuminates on the side, starts flashing FPV Race Solutions?
I'm going to be like the equivalent of a traveling fairground, but for drone racing.
Just need like a little Tesla coil steam organ in the corner.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah,
but for what it's worth, I think you could really rock a ringmaster outfit, like with a top hat and a cane.
I mean, how do you know I haven't got one?
We don't. I wouldn't be at all surprised. Just down a shot, he gets his top hat, whip, waistcoat. Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm not. Whatever happens, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be cluttering up your channel whenever you'll have me. I'll be doing something somewhere with a drone.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we wish you all the best, whether that's heading up the BDRA or otherwise, and wish BDRA the most success. As an organization, they deserve to have someone that's got the energy, and if someone else has got buckets more energy, then good luck to them.
Yeah. And good luck. I know Clive in the chat is racing this weekend. Anyone else that's racing this weekend, stick it in the chat and we'll chat you out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
very
don't forget
much,
to tune
everyone.
in to the BDRA live stream of the whole event on Saturday and Sunday with myself and Matt Andrews commentating.
Ooh, there we go.
Link in the chat. Hint, hint. Or drop it and we'll put it in the show notes.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone. You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. You've been joined this week by me, the apparent Lord and Master, although I don't feel I have any control over anything.
Most responsible person.
Yeah, the guy, the fall guy. We have had the guy with the moustache, Stephen.
Thank you and good night.
We've had quietly in the corner waiting for there to be a cat. We've had Jack. We have had Serb, the current chairman of the BDRA, leader of Killer Quads, purveyor of FPV Racing Solutions. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you,
for
guys.
your struggle this past year, and all the best of luck.
Thank you for having me on. Always a good time with you guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers. All the best, man.
Goodbye.